So, as usual, I'm getting ready to give you something that is not surprising at all coming from a Republican. Now, there are three major things. The first thing is this. So, here's what she said at one of her events. She was speaking at an event, and somebody in the audience had mentioned something about Trump, but the audio was kind of like low, so I couldn't really make out what the person was saying, and I'm sure you probably won't make it out either. Here's the first thing.
The negative ads, I think it's really... Negative ads on Trump? Oh my gosh, where's my husband? My husband's my second favorite man. I'm just putting it that way right now.
It's questionable that she would make a comment like that. Now, I know some people are making arguments saying maybe she was joking or being sarcastic, whatever. I just thought it was funny. The context was just funny to me. You know, you look at a guy who not only cheated on 3 wives and made sexual comments about his daughter, but also talked about grabbing stuff. And the guy who's had more sexual assault / harassment allegations against him than virtually almost any other person out there, as far as like major figure. You know, there are a few exceptions who have more. I mean, you got Bill Cosby and Jeff Epstein and Harvey Weinstein and people like that. So she looks at that guy and says, yeah, I like that guy more than the man that I married. Okay, Kari. Okay. Here's something that's a little bit more serious. To be fair, I'll say this. Now, I'm looking at... Apparently, I learned recently that she made an attack on John McCain. You remember him, Republican nominee who ran against Obama in the 2008 presidential election. Did not win that. He had been a senator in Arizona since about 1986, I want to say. Yeah, he was a congressman from 1982 to 86, and he was a senator from 86 to 2018. 2018 was the year that he passed away. So she was speaking at an event, and here's what she said about McCain.
We don't have any McCain Republicans in here, do we? All right, get the hell out. It was the party of McCain. And it was I know. It was bad. Boy, Arizona has delivered some losers, haven't they? But we have some winners as well. We've got Wendy Rogers right there.
In a resounding 24-3 vote, the Arizona Senate has censured...
Okay, so now keep in mind, I was never a fan of John McCain. Never voted for him, never supported him. You know, his voting record had very little good to it, but way more bad. First of all, you're talking about Arizona. And most conservatives and right-leaning independents, and maybe even some Democrats, had a good deal of respect for John McCain. You're talking about a guy who was a war hero, a prisoner of war. He served as a prisoner of war for 5 years, came back, and at the age of 72, I think that was when he passed. When he ran against Barack in 2008, still managed to run for president, even though he didn't make it. And at one point, she actually had good things to say about him. She said he was courageous and an icon, and he's a force to be reckoned with. But now he's a loser. I think I have a theory about why that is. I think she switched from John McCain as a winner, and then Trump said some stuff about John McCain being a loser when he said, I prefer people who weren't captured. And then so people like her and Ted Cruz and Lindsey Graham and a bunch of other Republicans had just jumped to the side of, oh, he's a loser. And talking about him after he died, too. After he died, I was like, isn't there something about, like, not speaking ill of the dead? And to digress a little bit, I will say, yeah, you got liberals and conservatives alike who are guilty of speaking ill of the dead. You know, I know that I can't remember who it was that somebody passed on the Democrat side, and I think some conservatives had made some disparaging remarks, but then there were people on the Republican side who died, and liberals had said things that I wasn't proud of. I mean, you're talking Bush Sr., John McCain, Donald Rumsfeld, Rush Limbaugh. None of those people I was ever a fan of. And so guess what? I just said nothing when they passed, because it's like, that didn't sit well with a lot of Arizona voters. And I guarantee you, I think in her mind, she actually thought that they were booing McCain. Maybe some were. A lot of those people, I think, were booing her. And she didn't realize that. She turned a lot of those voters off. And she said this 4 days before the election. I don't know if every single one of those people in that room who got disgusted decided to not vote for her and vote for the Democrat, Katie Hobbs. Maybe some did. I'm willing to bet that a lot of people there just didn't vote at all. Maybe they voted for third party if there was a third party candidate. But she ticked a lot of people off with that alone. And it's like, and so that's number 2. And here's number 3. Here's my favorite. Let's hear this.
Do you plan to have it in your budget to increase school safety, and how so?
I believe with the last budget, Wendy, not if I'm right, was about 50 million put into increasing school safety with school resource officers, armed officers, to make sure we're protecting our kids. It is not impossible to protect our kids at school.
Kari, you're right. It's not impossible to protect our kids at school, which is why Democrats proposed legislation for gun reform, gun safety, gun control, which you and all your Republican friends are against. So the context of what you're saying is accurate, but you just don't support it. You don't support what you're saying. Let's go on.
They act like it is. Nancy Pelosi, well, she's got protection when she's in D.C. Apparently her house doesn't have a lot of protection. But
apparently her house doesn't have a lot of protection. That's why she got attacked, or that's why her husband got attacked. Kari, this right here is the consequence to reading out of the Trump MAGA handbook. Because Trump started this thing. He may not have been the first one to really start it, but he was one to really put it out there more and make it as okay as it is to a lot of conservatives and even some other people. But when you got a guy who, during the campaign in 2016, goes on national television to mock a handicapped reporter, who makes fun of dead people, like he made fun of John McCain while he was alive and after he passed, and even when he made the one comment about, I don't know if you guys remember the story where there were bombs that were found near the homes of prominent Democratic figures, like the Obamas, the Clintons, I think Pelosi, Debbie Wasserman Schultz. There's another big name guy, I can't think of his name, who was a huge donor and a funder to the Republic. I think George Soros, and even a couple celebrities. I can't even remember who the celebrities were. And what did Trump say around that time? He said, well, if Obama's life was in danger, I wouldn't have helped him, or I wouldn't have helped. He said something along those lines. This was also the same guy who made a remark at one of his rallies and hinted that it's okay for his supporters to attempt to assassinate Hillary if she had gotten elected president in 2016. And that right there is just barely the tip of the iceberg. So with that being said, with him saying those things, he has a base and a group of supporters, both voters and politicians, who follow his path, and they think it's okay. And so she gets to say crap like this, making fun of the Pelosi's for getting attacked. And I think what she's too ignorant to realize is it's not like all liberals opposed what she said and all conservatives supported what she said. No, you have a number of people on both sides, and most reasonable-minded, rational-minded people who are not going to sit there and say that it was okay, or to sit there and make a joke about the Pelosi's getting attacked, regardless of what you feel about the Pelosi's. I mean, plenty of people love them, plenty of people hate them, plenty of people don't care, and plenty of people probably don't even know them. So it's like that whole thing about going down this MAGA path and having to be one of these Trump candidates where, yeah, we can make fun of dead people, we can be heartless, and we can make all these outrageous statements and cause more trouble and division and put people through pain because of the suffering they went through with this stuff. She's following right that path, and that right there is the third one that cost her. There were people disgusted at that, and now that she lost, she's over here crying voter fraud, which we knew she was going to do if she lost, because she said in an interview on one of those news stations on television, if you lose, will you accept the results of the election? I'm going to win. Okay, but if you lose, I'm going to win. Okay, well, you do understand that there's a possibility that, election could go either way. I'm going to win. There you have it. Now, here's more of what she said.
If our lawmakers have protection, if our lawmakers can have protection, if our politicians can have protection, if our athletes, then certainly the most important people in our lives, our children, should have protection. I do want to get to the very bottom of who made the decision to mask our kids. Fauci, CDC, I think the school teachers union was in on it.
Okay, Kari. The mask mandate was something that was temporary. So COVID started in March of 2020? And so the mask mandate was going on throughout all of 2020 and like the first half of 2021 or something like that. Kari, you're running for governor. This is November of 2022. There are no mask mandates right now. Okay? Now, you have plenty of people still going around wearing masks, but guess what? It's not because they're being told to. It's optional. That's why they're still providing it. That's why you can still buy a mask at any store or gas station. Because you have some people that are, extreme germaphobes, or you have people who are overly, paranoid, and who don't want to take any precautionary step to not risk getting the virus or whatever the case might be. That's their choice to do that. That's not Fauci telling them to do that. That's not Biden or Pelosi or Clinton or Harris or anybody telling them to do that. My job no longer requires a mask, at least not at this moment. But there are some people who still wear the mask because they want to. That's why they provide the mask there. The Governor Gavin Newsom in California, he provided, one of the things that boosted him in the polls was the fact that he provided proper protection equipment for the kids in schools and for the elderly. And his numbers went up and up. And so when Larry Elder, conservative, ran against him, he said the people of California don't like that he's doing this. And Gavin and the people in California were like, no, actually, we do like that he's doing this. This is why we support him. Let's go on.
I want to find out who made these decisions to shut our businesses down and shut our churches down. I want to have a commission to investigate COVID.
Kari, let me tell you something. You said shut our businesses down and shut our churches down. Tell me, and I asked this question in another video, and I'm going to ask it again. What businesses are currently shut down? Okay. Let me just go down the list let me just break it down here into different categories. Fast food places. McDonald's, Burger King, Taco Bell, Wendy's, Arby's, A&W, they're all open. Other restaurants, Coney Island, Applebee's, Chili's, Red Lobster, Buffalo Wild Wings, Benihana's, Ram's Horn, all those places are open. Movie theaters, MJR, Cinemark, Imagine, they're all open. Sorry. Grocery stores, Walmart, Meijer, Kroger, Target, Sam's Club, Costco, IKEA, they're all open. The laundromats are open. The gas stations are open. The 7-Elevens are open. People's businesses are open. The places where people work at, the banks are open. The credit unions are open. Just whatever you could think of. The gyms are open. She says shut down the churches. Kari, I was at church earlier today. And when I say I was at church earlier, that means I drove up to the church and I was able to park my car and walk into the building and sit down in the building. The congregation took place in the building, which means it was open. So how is that possible that the churches are shut down? Everything you're talking about was temporary. That was only lasting throughout 2020 and like the early part of 2021, maybe half of 2021 at the most. But now everything is open again. Everything is open. The schools are open. Public schools, everything is open. Colleges, Henry Ford, Wayne County Community, all the universities, Harvard, Yale, Stanford, Princeton, Georgetown, New York University, they're all open. Everything is open again. People want to go hang out at the bar and the club. It's open again. They're back to their normal hours, 2 a.m. in the morning. So, granted, I will say the one thing that didn't change. So, The grocery stores like Walmart and Meijer, they used to be 24/7. Now they close at midnight. But I mean, hey, that's better than being closed. I mean, people can still go there, shop, get what they need to get. So I still don't get it. I don't get it. Everything is closed. What's closed? What? The heck are these people talking about? Let's continue.
And how it was handled in this state. And hand up any civil or criminal charges that need to be made. Because we're not going to just forget what happened when our lives got turned upside down, when our businesses got shut down, when our grandparents and parents were forced to die alone in a nursing home. When
our parents and grandparents were forced to die in nursing homes. Okay, listen. I'm not like non-sympathetic to people who did die in those homes or people who die in general. Listen, God rest their souls. God bless the families. And, condolences. My heart is with them and everything. But there were many sources that showed that a lot of the people who put their grandparents and the elderly in nursing homes, a lot of those elderly said they wanted to go there. It wasn't because Biden or Fauci or Nancy told them to go there. So it's not like there was an executive order or a legislative decision or any type of judicial action that said, yep, all the elderly are going to have to go in the homes now, and you're not allowed to come out because you're going to die there. Who said that? What is this woman talking about? What are these Republicans talking about? Let's continue.
our people who worked so hard were forced out of a job because they didn't want to get a shot that their boss wanted them to get. So
not fully accurate. So I'll tell you the part that's unfair if it's true. If there was a case where somebody got kicked out of a job because they refused to get a shot, then I do think that's wrong, because everybody needs to work. Everybody needs to make some money. Feed your kids, pay your bills, pay your insurance, all that type of stuff. Eat, drink, all that stuff you need to do. What she seems to forget about, and what a lot of Republicans seem to have forgotten or simply not understood, is I know she's referring to the vaccine mandate, which the Biden administration, they worded it wrong. They really shouldn't have been called that. Here's the deal. The policy stated that if you work in a huge facility where there's at least a couple hundred people, then you have one of two options. Either get the shot or you take a COVID test every 3-4 weeks to make sure that you don't have COVID. That's not the same thing as a vaccine mandate per se. And that only referred to people who are working in huge facilities like that. I'm pretty sure that wasn't referring to somebody who works at the laundromat or the gas station or the fast food places or the restaurants. I'm pretty sure that didn't refer to people who work at the bank, where you only have about, on average, 10 people or less in the bank. You usually have like 4 bank tellers, and you got like the person who's at the front door, and you got like people in the office. It's not talking about them. So I'm not, and I don't even know necessarily that would even refer to like Walmart and Meijer may be a hit or miss. But again, she's mostly wrong on that. But like I said, if they got kicked out because they refused to get the shot, that part is wrong. Let's continue.
I want to find out where a lot of these decisions were made, who was responsible. And if there is a way, and if there was some criminal activity, I think we need to look at that. Absolutely. This wasn't just some little petty theft.
You know, speaking of criminal activity, Kari, let me remind you of something. I'm sure you didn't know this because Fox News and Newsmax ever told you this. But there was a story that came out that showed that the governor of Florida, Ron DeSantis, the governor of Georgia, Brian Kemp, the governor of Oklahoma, Kevin Stitt, and there was another governor that was somewhere down there in the South whose name I believe it was Greg Abbott of Texas. I could be wrong on that, but anybody who's watching this, and you can confirm that, I could be wrong. But for sure, Kemp, Stitt, and DeSantis of Georgia, Oklahoma, and Florida, respectively. Guess what they did during the peak of COVID? They opened up beaches just so the 18 and 21-year-olds could go down there and party and whatnot. And like, hey, listen, I'm not against you. Like I said, you young, you want to have fun, get out there and everything. But once they went out there and partied and had their fun, a number of them had came back and contracted the COVID. And Unfortunately, there were some who died from it, but then luckily there were some who survived it. And I'm sure some had to be hospitalized, and luckily they had something to get them through it. You know, my heart goes out to the families of people that had the kids there who, you know, that they died or whatnot. But guess what Ron DeSantis came out later and said? Well, I didn't know that you can get it if you're asymptomatic. So the question is, would that be considered, I don't know, a negligent criminal activity? You know, it's negligence, you know, at least that. So, Kari, by your standards, I mean, should Ron DeSantis be punished? I mean, I think that, you know, unfortunately, he got reelected in Florida. I think they should have voted him out. Let's continue.
This was the theft of our freedom, our lives. This was the theft of our health. And I'm all for it. And I think that's why they're fighting against me.
This was a theft of our freedom, our health. Okay, Kari, when you say theft of freedom, what does that mean? What does that mean? Theft of freedom. That kind of reminds me of like when Tudor Dixon, who's the Republican that ran against Whitmer, and she lost big time too, when she was sitting there saying Gretchen Whitmer locked our kids in the house and they need to, you know, she's not letting them play. Let them play. Let them play. Yeah, she sounded just like that. She sounded like she was auditioning for a movie or something. Why are you sounding like that? Why are you sounding overly dramatic? Let them play. Let them play. Okay. So, and there was nothing that said that the kids couldn't go outside to go play. Okay. That was never in any type of bill or legislation or judicial piece or executive order. That wasn't there. She said, this is a theft of our health. Kari, the entire purpose of the government doing what it did during the peak of COVID was to try to keep people healthy. And the reason why they were providing things like, hey, we're more vaccines and you know, providing proper protection equipment for a number of people, that was to help people. That's, again, now that's not to say that some people didn't die whether they had the COVID or not. I mean, because there were a number of people who got the COVID who died, and there were a number of people who died who didn't get the vaccine or did get the vaccine. And I still feel sorry for those people regardless, and I feel sorry for those families. But a theft of your health when you sit there and say, oh, okay, well, hey, I got an idea. Why don't we do this thing called Medicare for all? And that could have prevented a whole lot of deaths. Maybe not every single one, but it would have prevented a lot. Oh, but you oppose that, and all your Republican friends oppose it too. So I guess that's off the table then, huh? So that was the third major reason why she lost. So she hints that she likes Trump more than her own husband, which like I said, wasn't as serious. But then it got a little bit more serious when she mocked McCain's death, which ticked off a lot of Arizonians. And to top it all off, she continues to lie about the shutdowns and the mask and all that stuff and makes fun of the Pelosi attack. I think that really did it for her. And she did this stuff days before the election. She was actually in the lead for a short time. She actually led the polls. I think she was ahead by what? It couldn't have been that much, like 5, maybe 6 points. At one point, I think she was like at 48%. Katie was at 40%, and then the polls shifted. So the more she opened her mouth, the less popular she got. And that's the thing about a lot of these MAGA people is that more and more people are not standing for this garbage anymore. They can't take it. And so I know people said, well, Katie Hobbs didn't want to debate. Well, like I told you, that doesn't always mean anything. Just because a person refuses to debate doesn't mean they're going to lose. When you look at Kentucky, you got the Democrat Charles Booker and the Republican Rand Paul. Rand Paul was leading the polls by 15 points ahead of Charles Booker, but Rand Paul was the one who refused to debate Charles Booker. He's basically saying, yeah, I refuse to debate you even though I'm beating you by 15 points. And of course, unfortunately, he still won, and most of us knew that was going to happen. I kind of blame the media for some of that because they didn't put enough attention on that race to begin with. I was doing my best, and I was talking to my friends in Kentucky about that. But, I mean, hey, it's all past now. I can't do anything about it now. We just have to try again next time. And notice what I did right there? I said, let's try again next time. I'm not screaming fraud or any stupid thing like that. So those are the three things that major factors that cost her the election. And this is why most Trump candidates lost this season. They followed Trump's handbook. They couldn't shut their mouths. They were making fun of people. They were making all these cruel jokes and attacking people. And they were supporting Boebert's statements about Ilhan Omar supposedly having a bomb in her book bag. They're continuing to spread the narrative that Biden cheated the election. They're still lying about Democrats shutting down the government and shutting all businesses down and businesses can't recover. They're still saying they're talking about impeaching Biden. All they can do is talk about investigating Hunter. And you have some people even saying, oh, well, if Democrats win, that means Pelosi and Clinton and Obama and a few people were in on it. More and more people looked at that and said, you know what? I'm tired of hearing this dumb mess. People got tired of hearing that. But you know what? Hey, it was good for us because the more you open your stupid mouth, the more you're helping us. So the people of Arizona were looking at Katie Hobbs and Kari Lake, and they said, well, Katie Hobbs, every time she opens her mouth, she keeps saying stupid stuff, and she just proves herself to be more and more embarrassing. And she thought that she was going to be a shoo-in just because she was a reporter down there. But Katie Hobbs, who was the person who advocated to expand healthcare, support voting rights, support reproductive rights, raise the wages, and get people a better education, it's like they looked at her and they were like, yeah, she is a little bit more reasonable, and that's why she won. It wasn't an easy win by any means. The election went on for, I think, 4 days down there, maybe 5. So, again, that's why Kari Lake lost. Kari, if you're listening to this, which I'm sure you're not. I'm sure you're not. That's why you lost. That's why. And to all the people who are the MAGA candidates and the Trump candidates, here's what you should do. If you're tired of getting bad press from media or like bad flack from the press and the media and all that, here's what you could do. Here's my kind, simple, and honest suggestion. Why don't you just not run for anything? Just don't run. You'll be just fine. Just stay home. Go find you a regular job or something. Go work at a bank or a credit union, whatever. Hell, even go work on Wall Street or Goldman Sachs or something. It's, just do it. Just find something. This just obviously isn't your thing. It's just not for you. Listen, we've all tried a number of things that aren't for us. This isn't for you. It just doesn't work. So just don't run. Just shut up. Go home. Don't be seen. Don't be heard. I know you all talking about saving America, but hey, leave it to us. Just leave that to us. We got it. We got you. Hey, I wouldn't be saying this if I didn't mean it. I mean, it's just crazy. So that's why Kari Lake lost Arizona. Katie Hobbs is the winner. Congratulations. And of course, Kari Lake is, trying to get protests together, to get people together to protest the results. She did an event. She got 4 or 5 people to show up. And then just sitting there waving that flag. What are they? We're not gonna take it. That's all they're doing is waving that flag. I don't know why that song always matches with them. Some comedians made a joke about that, but I don't have time to get into that. But they're just sitting there waving that flag. We're gonna take back America. We're not gonna take it. I'm sorry. I just had to throw that in there a little bit. I just got to have a little bit of fun, a little bit. You all understand. So, like I said, that's why Kari Lake lost, and I'm glad that Katie Hobbs is the winner. Congratulations to Arizona.